Chapter 14 Dr. Lanyon's Letter. Utterson opened his safe and pulled out the letter from Lanyon. In the quiet of his office, he read, Dear Utterson, 4 days ago, on January 9th, I received a registered letter sent by my old friend Henry Jekyll. This surprised me. We had never sent each other letters, and I had just had dinner with him the night before. I grew even more curious as I read the letter. It said, Dear Lanyon, you are one of my oldest friends. We have disagreed at times, but you have been a true friend, and I would do anything in the world for you. Lanyon, my life, my honor, and my sanity are all in your hands. If you fail me tonight, I will be lost forever. You may be thinking that I'm about to ask you to do something unlawful. Please keep reading and decide for yourself. No matter what you may have planned for this evening, I'm begging you to cancel. Take a cab or your carriage and drive straight to my house. Poole, my butler, has orders to expect you and allow you into my house. I've also asked him to call for a locksmith. You are to force open the door of my laboratory office and go in alone. In my office you will find a cabinet marked with an E, which may be locked. If it is, have the locksmith open it. Open the fourth drawer down from the top. There you should find some powders, a vial, and a paper book. Remove the drawer from the cabinet and take it back to your home on Cavendish Square. If you leave immediately after reading this, you should be home before midnight. At exactly midnight, please be in your office. You will hear a knock at the door from a man sent in my name. Give him the cabinet drawer. I will be thankful to you more than you can know. 5 minutes after you hand over the drawer, you will understand how important this is to me. If you cannot help me, I will go completely insane and will die the most horrible death. I'm hoping that you will be able to do this for me, my friend. I am trembling in fear that you won't. I'm in a strange and dark place, in a blackness of distress you could never understand. If you can help me, all of my troubles will be gone. Help me, Lanyon, I beg you. Please help me. Your friend, Henry Jekyll. P.S. I just had a horrible thought. If the mail reaches you a day late, follow the instructions anyway, on whatever day you read this. I will know if you have the drawer, and you can expect a midnight knock. If the night passes with no knock at your door, you will know that you have seen the last of Henry Jekyll. After I read the letter, I knew that Jekyll must be insane. But until that was proven, I knew I must help him and follow his instructions. The less I knew, the better. All I really needed to know was that my friend needed help. I got up from my desk, got into my carriage, and drove straight to Jekyll's house. The butler was waiting at the door when I arrived. He, too, had received a registered letter with instructions. He had called for a locksmith and carpenter. The 4 of us walked through the home and garden and then into the laboratory building. The door to Jekyll's office was very strong, and the lock was excellent. The carpenter and locksmith spent almost 2 hours working, but finally the door swung open. The cabinet marked E was not locked. I removed the 4th drawer. I filled it with straw and wrapped it up in cloth. Then I left, taking the entire drawer to my home. When I arrived home, I looked closely at the drawer and what was inside. I found what looked like a white salt powder and a vial half filled with a thick red liquid. The vial had a strong smell that reminded me of sulfur. The other chemicals were a complete mystery. There was a book that had nothing but dates and little notes next to some of them. The dates went back several years and ended about 1 year ago. The word double was written every month or so in the notes. I saw total failure written in large print near the beginning of the book. How could these chemicals in this book affect Jekyll's honor and sanity? I knew that Jekyll often ran experiments that did not work out. This seemed to be one of them. The more I thought about it, the more worried I became for Jekyll. I sent my servant to bed and removed a gun from my desk drawer. I loaded it, wondering who this secret man would be who was coming to my home. I would take no chances. At midnight, as the bells of London rang, there was a gentle knock at my door. I opened it and found a small man crouching against the pillar. "Have you come from Dr. Jekyll?" I asked. He made a sign that meant yes, I asked him to come in, but he first looked over his shoulder at a policeman standing in the distance, staring our way. Then he quickly came in. I was shocked right away by his strange manner and kept my hand close to my gun. In the light of the room, I saw him more clearly. I knew I had never seen him before. He was small, as I have said, and his face was hard to look at. He seemed deformed in some way. There was something very wrong with this man. My stomach felt weak as I looked at him. I felt hatred. No. I felt something stronger than hatred for this person. This disgusting little man was dressed in expensive clothes, but they were much too large for him. His pants hung loose on his legs and were rolled up several times at the ankle. The waist of his coat hung below his hands. The collar was spread across his shoulders. This creature standing in front of me was not normal. I found it hard to believe that he could walk around London without being arrested, just for the way he looked. His odd, twisted face was lit with excitement, however. "Have you got it?" he cried. "Have you got it?" He grabbed my arm and shook it. I backed away from him. The touch of his hand had made my blood grow ice cold. "Sir," I said, "I don't believe we've ever met. Please have a seat." I sat down in a chair, hoping that my horror of him did not show on my face. I tried to act normal and think of this man as a medical patient. "I beg your pardon, Dr. Lanyon," he said more calmly. "I have been rude. Forgive me for acting so impatiently. I have been sent here, as you know, by Henry Jekyll. I believe there is a drawer." He reached for his throat and seemed about to panic. I felt sorry for the man at that moment, and I was curious as to what this was all about. "There it is," I said. I pointed at the drawer, which lay on the floor behind my desk, still covered with the cloth. He sprang to it, then stopped and put his hand upon his heart. I could hear his teeth grinding horribly. His face became pale, and I feared for his life and sanity. "Get a hold of yourself, sir," I said. He turned toward me and gave me a dreadful smile. Then he grabbed the cloth and tossed it aside. When he saw the contents of the drawer, he sobbed with relief. I was so scared I felt as if I had turned to stone. He turned toward me and quietly asked, "May I have a measuring glass?" I got up from my chair stiffly and handed him a glass from the counter. He thanked me with a smiling nod. Then he removed the chemicals from the drawer. I watched as he measured out some of the red liquid into glass and added one of the powders. The mixture had a dull red color at first. As the powder dissolved, the mixture began to brighten and bubble. I could smell the awful fumes. Suddenly, the chemical stopped fizzing, turned a dark purple, then faded slowly to a watery green. My visitor watched the process closely, with his eyes just inches from the glass. He smiled, set the glass on the desk, then turned and looked at me with an eerie twinkle in his eye. "And now," he said, "to solve this mystery for you. Do you wish for me to stay and drink this? Would you rather that I leave? Is your curiosity too much for you? If you watch me drink, you will see things you never thought possible. This drink will save me from my nightmare, but I must tell you that what you will see would bother the devil himself." "Sir," I said, trying to act cool, "your words and actions confuse me. I would be lying if I said I was not frightened by your strange behavior. But I've come too far not to see this to the end. Drink from the glass and be done with it, sir." "Very well," replied my visitor. "Lanyon, remember the vows you took when you became a doctor. What you are about to witness is to remain our professional secret. As doctors, we've traveled separate paths. And now, you, who have made fun of new ideas you could not understand. Behold." He brought the glass to his lips and drank in one gulp. A cry came from his gasping open mouth. He staggered, holding the edge of the desk for balance. As I stared at him, he started to change. He seemed to swell. His face became suddenly black, and it seemed to melt and move. The next moment I sprang to my feet and leaped back against the wall. I raised my arms in front of my face to shield me from this sight. My entire body shook in terror. "God help me!" I screamed. "Dear God! Dear God!" For there, before my eyes, pale and shaken, and reaching into the air with his hands, like a man brought back from death, there stood Henry Jekyll. What Jekyll told me in the next hour, I cannot bring myself to put on paper. I saw what I saw, I heard what I heard, and my soul was sickened. Yet I think about it now and I ask myself if I believe it. I have no answer. My life is shaken to its roots. I cannot sleep, and this most terrifying memory stays with me all day and night. I know that my days are numbered and that I must soon die. I'll die trying not to believe what I saw and heard. I will say this, Utterson, and I ask you to open your mind and believe what you read. Jekyll told me the name of the creature who crept into my house that night, who changed before my eyes into my friend. He is known as Edward Hyde, the fiend who is hunted in every corner of the land as the murderer of Sir Danvers Carew. Hasty Lanyon. The end of chapter 14.